The year was 1519, September 20. The Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan was chilling in Spain in a restaurant, eating with his brother-in-law, Duarte Barbosa, and they were eating what anyone else would eat during the 16th century. Fish, bread, probably some tortillas, and probably some chorizos too. And Magellan was like, you know what really hit the spot right now? What? Some nutmeg and cloves. Cool. Want to go across the Atlantic in search of these spices? I'm down. So then they went, with the brilliant idea to lead a crew of 260 to 270 men split upon 5 ships. Magellan and his brother Barbosa left the coast of Spain to embark on a transatlantic voyage. Their destination? The Maluku Islands of Indonesia. For what reason? At the time, Indonesia was the only place where you could find nutmeg and cloves. Spices so valuable that just having a sliver of these could make you rich. They intended to sail west of the coast of Spain, across the Atlantic, through South America, then across the Pacific directly to the Maluku Islands. But it was the 16th century, and no one really knew if they were going to arrive at their destination accurately. So, Magellan and his crew didn't arrive at Indonesia. Instead, they arrived at Homonhon Island, in the region of Visayas, Philippines. Even though it was uninhabited, shortly after, some nearby islanders soon arrived into the island. They brought food, water, and other local goodies to trade with them, like metal for food, or other items they had. When in that small moment, two worlds met through trade. And this was the beginning of the Pacific's economic transformation, where the exchange of local goods would slowly collide with global trade, reshaping the region forever. Even though Magellan was one of the first Europeans to reach this part of the Pacific, the economic history of the region did not begin with him. Long before European ships appeared into this region, Pacific Islanders were already moving across the ocean, trading, farming, fishing, and they were overall building stronger connections between the islands. To them, the sea was not some empty space separating people, it was more like a road. Canoes carried food, tools, stories, families, and alliances from one island to another. But trade was not only about getting rich, it was also about gifts, shared meals, or exchange between communities so that they knew that they wouldn't kill each other. This built trust, settled relationships, but mainly show respect to each other. So before empires, before colonies, and before global markets, the Pacific already had its own economy, built around goods, survival, relationships, and of course, money. After Magellan's voyage, European interest in the Pacific slowly grew. At first, many ships entered the region looking for routes, supplies, and safe places to stop. Because before they wanted to start trading and earning, they had to look for places to stay. The Pacific was huge, and for sailors crossing it, finding an island with fresh water and food could mean the difference between a rich life or dying poor. But over time, European traders were able to start bringing new goods into island communities, while also looking for things they could sell overseas. Some islands became regular stopping points for ships, while others became connected to trade networks reaching all the way to Asia, Europe, and the Americas. During the early years of the European exposure, local trade did not disappear. Islanders still had their own systems of exchange, but now, those systems had to exist beside a new kind of economy, one driven by foreign demand. By the late 1700s and 1800s, the Pacific was becoming more and more connected to global capitalism. Foreign traders were no longer just passing through, they were now actively looking for resources. In some islands, traders came looking for sandalwood because it was worth a lot overseas. In other places, whaling ships began stopping at island ports to get food, water, and supplies. Later on, copra, the main ingredient for coconut oil, easily became one of the Pacific's most important exports. Instead of making or growing things mainly for their own communities, more islanders were now being pulled into producing goods for global markets. Something collected, planted, or prepared on a Pacific island would travel across the ocean and be sold on the other side of the world. This created new chances for trade, but it also brought pressure. Communities were no longer only working around their own needs. More and more, their economies began to depend on what foreign traders wanted to buy. Trade became more than just trade. It became a way to control land, people, and resources. European powers began claiming islands, setting up colonies, and creating governments that mainly served for foreign interests. Plantations grew larger, and land was divided or reorganized, and labor became more controlled. In some places, Pacific Islanders were pushed into work systems that they did not fully choose. In other places, chiefs and local communities tried to negotiate, resist, or protect their power and traditions. But no matter how different each island's experience was, one thing had changed. Outsiders now had more influence. The Pacific economy was no longer shaped only by local communities. It was now affected by decisions made far away. Prices, wars, shipping routes, and politics in Europe, Asia, or America could change the lives of island communities thousands of kilometers away. The ocean was still a highway, but now, the empires was deciding where much of the traffic went. But colonization was not the end of the Pacific's economic story. By the late 1800s and early 1900s, the region was also being changed by mining and resource extraction. In places like Nauru, Banaba, phosphate was mined and shipped overseas. In places like Papua New Guinea, gold and later copper became major exports. In New Caledonia, nickel became one of its most important resources. These industries created wealth, but not always for local communities. A lot of the profit went to foreign companies and colonial governments, while many island communities were left with damaged land and economies that depended heavily on exports. Then, World War II came. It changed the Pacific again. Islands became military bases, airstrips, ports, and supply routes. The war brought destruction, but it also brought roads, paid work, imported goods, and new infrastructure. After the war, many Pacific islands moved toward independence, but independence did not remove every economic challenge. Many countries still faced reduced populations, long distances, expensive transport, limited industries, and dependence on imports, such as foreign aid, tourism, mining, agriculture, remittances, and fishing. Today, the ocean is still central to Pacific economies. Tuna fishing, shipping, tourism, and ocean resources remain important sources of income in the Pacific. But now, climate change has become one of the biggest economic threats. Rising sea levels, stronger cyclones, damaged reefs threaten not just the economy, but also the quality of people's lives and the environment around us. Even today, the Pacific economy is always changing. The economic history of the Pacific has its ups and downs. It's not just a story about Europeans arriving. It's a story about change. Long before global empires, Pacific Islanders were already doing their own thing. Trading, traveling, farming, exchanging goods across the ocean, things like that. Their economies were already built way before Europeans decided to go and influence them. But European contact did not create the Pacific economy. It connected local island systems to a much larger economy, one built by global markets, forced labor, war, tourism, fishing, and overall, trying to get rich. Magellan's arrival in the Philippines was only one moment in what was a much bigger story. It showed how the Pacific would slowly become tied to trade routes stretching across oceans and continents. But the Pacific was never empty, and it was never isolated. It was already a world of movement, exchange, and connection. Global trade did not create the Pacific economy, it changed it.